Hey guys, let's dive straight into this review. So a quick note, this is going to be a detailed review. So if you guys do not have patience, my apologies, but I want to break down all of the details to point the differences out. I'm going to start off by showing the differences in the packaging. Then I'm going to show the differences in the cases. Then I'm going to show the differences in the lens and then the frames. And lastly, I will be putting them on my face to show those differences. That said, let's get started. On the left, I purchased this on eBay. On the right, I purchased this on Amazon. This is an authorized seller. I went on their website. They are located in New York, and they're also incorporated in Nevada. So they have some proof. For this eBay seller, they did not have much proof. On the right, this is about $185, which is more consistent with what's listed on the Ray-Ban website. On Ray-Ban website, it is around 220 plus tax. So this is 185. It's kind of in line with that price. This was around $95, so a little too good to be true. So just keep those things in mind. For the packaging, you're going to see on this authentic pair, the scarlet red is a bit more vibrant, and there is texture on this case, on this box. You can see there's texture there. This is going to be much smoother, and overall it has a matte finish. So you can see this is more vibrant up here. I'm not going to show the barcodes just to not offend the sellers, but we'll dive straight into this. Actually, I'm going to show something on the boxes as well. So in these boxes, they kind of use a different material. This is more of a brownish cardboard, and this is more of a gray, and it also has a label inside. Boxes are empty. And be advised that the cases, it could be up to the seller, the wholesaler. They can put a different case on it if they want. I'll break down the case right now. But I'd like to point out that this authentic pair comes with a certified reseller card. I noticed this eBay case did not. So I'm thinking for legal purposes, the eBay brand does not want to do that because they could probably get sued. So the authentic pair has this card. Okay, now let's break down the cases. Like I said, they could vary brown or black. I do, however, have my authentic pair of my wafers here, and I purchased this at Costco, so I'm pretty confident that they are authentic. You could notice that this gold is much more exaggerated on the replica case, as this is much more neutral gold, and the leather texture is much more dramatic on this replica versus this is more muted and not as textured. And to reference the brown one, I bought this replica on eBay. So you can see this font, it's bled a lot when it got stamped. It bled a lot, and it's not really detailed. And check out the difference here. Extremely easy to read and consistent on the font and lettering. So again, these are replicas, and then these are authentic. Let's take these out of the case now and continue looking at the packaging. So for the packaging, these come covered, the replicas come covered. And it also has an arm sleeve. The first thing I noticed on this arm sleeve, well, not the first thing, but this plastic is very flimsy and thin. And the plastic on this arm is very robust, very thick. Next, for the pamphlets, A lot of times these pamphlets and cases, you could find them very easily on eBay. They probably sell them in bulk. So don't get too fixated on this, but you could still see differences here. So with the booklets, this one is more flexible, this one's more rigid, and kind of hard to see on camera, but the icon font is more white and this is more gray, the lettering. And then if you can kind of see there, sorry, it's kind of oily, let me clean this. This is kind of consistent with that authentic box that has like some texture on it, versus this one still has that matte finish on it. So again, more rigid, a bit more flexible, and then whiter letters, and then these are grayer, more matte overall. So let's get those pamphlets out of the way. And then for the cleaning cloth, you can see this is packaged a little different. Here it says Ray-Ban and here it says Luxottica for the replicas. Okay, next we're going to move to the lens. The first thing to notice is this sticker, and this sticker, it's kind of centered, and then this is very level where it says Ray-Ban, versus this one's a little tilted. And then look at where the sticker's placed. It's like on the bottom right by the rim, which is very awkward. So it kind of seems like a secondhand thought. Someone just like slapped it on, versus this one's placed like right in the center there. And some other things to notice on the bottom, this authentic pair, you can see the font on the Ray-Ban is very crisp. On the top, it's a little thicker, bold, doesn't have as much detail, right? On the bottom pair, on the red little aviator lens, that P is much bolder than the top P. You can see the differences there. And for the polarized, you can notice the polarized on the authentic pair on the bottom it's more bold than the replica, so it's very thin on the replica. And then you can see this sticker has more of a rich, like a gray sparkle. This one's a little more dainty on the top replica. Next, I'm going to try to show the etching. Let me adjust my camera here. And the etching on the lens is another way to distinguish this. So this etching is kind of coarse, and you're going to notice it's higher than the arm. This little hinge here. So it's kind of coarse, and it's higher than the arm. On the authentic, this is very hard to replicate. Look at how crisp that is. And it's also lower than this arm. For reference, these are my other aviators. If you look at that etching, very crisp, and below the arm as well. Next, on the lens, we're going to look at the Ray-Ban P. This is the authentic pair. This is the replica. So just looking at it from here, you're going to notice that, let me get it to focus. You're going to notice that the bottom has more of a contrast with the Ray-Ban P. And you have to think about the manufacturer or Ray-Ban, when they're making these glasses, they realize that it's a status symbol to have the extra P there. So they're going to display it very clearly. A lot of people purchasing these glasses are doing it for a status symbol. So Ray-Ban wants to make sure that it is emphasized. So you can see the white contrasts a little more. It's out of focus, hold on. It contrasts a little more than the top. And now let's look on the inside of the lens. The purple that you see on the inside of the lens is an anti-reflective coating. If you notice on the top, it is much more dramatic, that purple. Whereas the bottom is muted, it's more of a grayish blue, versus the top, it's very clear that you can see that color. So for these replicas, you can honestly get replica lens very easily, high quality ones very easily, but we see that Ray-Ban decides to go with a more muted anti-reflective. Here are the other pair for reference. you can see that it's kind of muted. It's not so dramatic with that purple. So on the inner lens, that anti-reflective is another distinguishing factor. And I'll talk a little bit more about the lens at the end of the review when I try them on, but I do think that these have more of a teardrop, that iconic shape. These are a little more round. If you can kind of see that. Look at the nose. There's more of a slope on the authentic, which is on the right. Next, let's look at the differences in terms of the color of the authentic. So here are the authentic in my hand. You can see it's a very neutral brown, very consistent. It's not too dark. And then look at the difference with the replicas. Very yellow. It's like a mustard yellow, almost like those driving glasses that you use for the fog or something. I'm going to put both next to each other so you can kind of see. That is another difference. Next, we're going to move on to the frame. On the frame, this is where you're going to notice a lot of differences. The frame is very hard to duplicate, especially if you don't have precision machinery. On the arm, you notice this earpiece. Let me get the light a bit more on it. Let's see here. You can notice this is more like a maple caramel on the earpiece, and this is like an espresso black. So you can see, especially in the upper part there is a color difference. And the gold, this is actually more of like a yellow gold. It's kind of more of a in-your-face gold, versus this is more neutral and subdued, which is, I think, a lot classier, and then another distinguishing factor. Another thing on the frame, which is huge, is on the top brow here. And excuse me, this is going to take a little while to focus, but so on the top part of the brow, it is etched Ray-Ban and made in Italy. And just look at the precision for how small this font is. That is extremely precise. And under the brow, it is going to say Ray-Ban 5814. Look how crisp that is. It's kind of a typewriter font, but very crisp and super detailed. So again, these are the authentic, and the replica on the top bar, it does not even have anything etched. So again, it is blank. Under, it does say Ray-Ban, and it does say 5814, but if you notice, the font, it's a little different and it's kind of harder to read. It's not as crisp. And I'll show the other pair. Look how easy that picks up on the camera. Next, I noticed on the inner arm, apologies for the focus, but on the inner arm, it's more moved back. The lettering is more moved back, versus on this one, there's a ton of space here. So that's the frame. Next, I'm going to try them on and showcase the differences. The first pair shown here is the authentic pair. You can see I have it basically all the way up, and you can still see some of my eyebrows, like the top of my eyebrows. The next thing is that it is level, and the lens, again, I'm going to see the other one, maybe there's a difference, maybe there isn't, but the lens on the Aviator is very iconic. It's like a teardrop, and you're going to notice this gap right here by my nose. It's very, very slight. It's tapered and very slight, and then there's a little gap by my cheekbone, obviously, but these sit very flush, super comfortable on the nose. When it slides on, there's almost no pressure on the back of my ear. But again, these are the authentic pairs. The authentic pair, excuse me. Okay, now let's try the generic ones. And you can see these fit very odd. They're on top, they're sitting on top of my eyebrow. And look at this gap, this is just ridiculous. Huge gap here, ton of space under my cheekbone. And I do not even think these are centered. I feel like they are scooted over a little more this way. And if I do slide them down right about there to where the other Aviators would be, it's kind of starting to squeeze my nose now, which this would for sure mark. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they both will, but this one feels like it's squeezing more. Let me put the other Aviators on my head. So you can see this is a bit pointier on the bottom here. Very slight, but it is pointier on the bottom here. For those of you that have owned other Ray-Bans before, that includes the wafers, are that they tend to taper down into your cheek versus, you see this one's very flat, so the other ones are tapered down. So look at this angle there. And then I'm going to put them on again. Look at how that closes off. So, hope you guys enjoyed this review. Again, this top pair, which is, it ran around a little under $100 in the mid 90s. This pair was $184, so almost, yeah, you're paying double the price, right? These go for around $220 plus tax on the Ray-Ban website, so this is a bit more discounted, but you could still get a deal. Whereas this is mid 90s, retails $220, so it's a little too good to be true. Overall, would these pass as authentic? The average person doesn't really know these differences, but I did point out a ton of details which I think are very important overall. And in terms of the quality, I've had Ray-Bans for a while now. I realize they're going to last a long time, and there is also peace of mind knowing they are authentic. So I can notice the quality there. And then again, the hardest thing to replicate on these, I think, are the frames, whether that's for legal purposes or due to the machinery that is more expensive. Those details are shown, whether that's the etching or the angling, the tone of the shades that they're using for the paint. But the differences here you can see. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Again, I'm obviously an amateur reviewer, but I will be more than glad to answer any questions you guys have. Hope this video helped. Like, subscribe. I make a lot of car videos too.